Folks, this is a live look of the United States Senate, where last night 8 Democrats crossed the aisle to join the Republicans to vote on the continuing resolution to fund the government. Democrats say they extracted a promise from Senate Majority Leader John Thune that there will be an actual vote on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, and so we'll be talking about that. Of course, this ends the month-long gridlock, the longest in U.S. history. Now the issue, though, is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has called the House back because they have to vote on the Senate bill, and then it goes back. So there's all this sort of stuff that goes on that's taking place right now. Now, here are the 8 Democratic senators who crossed the aisle. We're talking about, first of all, I'll mention them, but here's Speaker Mike Johnson talking about the end, close to the end of the shutdown.
The Senate's vote late last night of 60 to 40 opens the door now. The Senate is moving forward on an amended House CR, a continuing resolution, that will reopen the government until January 30th. The Senate will be back in session this morning to finish their job, and we're certainly praying that they do. They'll need unanimous consent from all senators to fast-track their final vote. As you know, there are some procedural hurdles that one or more could throw in the way, but we certainly hope that they won't do that because so many people across this country are desperate for the government to reopen. At the very moment that they do that final vote, I will call all House members to return to Washington as quickly as possible. We'll give a 36-hour formal and official notice so that we can vote as soon as possible to pass the amended CR bill and get it to the president's desk. As you all know, and he said as recently as last night, I was with him, and he told the press, he said, we want to get the government open.
Now, 8 Democrats crossed, and what did they get? They didn't actually secure anything tangible, only the promise, not a guarantee, that Congress will vote next month on extending key health care tax credits that Democrats have been fighting for. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said he would fight for the legislation if it returns to the House for a vote.
And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear.
One of the 8 Democrats that crossed is Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, who is in the Democrat leadership. He spoke about why he made this decision.
After lengthy negotiations, an agreement was reached with the Republican Senate leader, John Thune. We will agree to open the government until January 30th, 2026. During that time, we will pass 3 bipartisan appropriation bills that will fully fund SNAP, WIC, and all the veterans programs, and finish our work on the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year. The agreement would also reverse the Trump administration's mass firings during the shutdown and prevent future ones through January 30th. We credit Senator Kaine of Virginia for this provision. Leader Thune has also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases. It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort. It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in the Senate for 29 years, and I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority. During the historic roll call last night, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would. The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives. After a 7-week absence, the Speaker Johnson needs to call his members back and join us in the hard work that lies ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Last I checked, the Republicans don't actually support extending the subsidies. They already voted. They took them out in the big, ugly bill. Let's go to my panel. Dr. Niambi Carter, being a senior professor, lecturer at School of International Service, American University, author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racists. Dr. Niambi Carter, associate professor, School of Public Policy, University of Maryland, author of America While Black, African Americans, Immigration, and the Limits of Citizenship, and Tyler Macmillan, social justice leader and movement strategist. Glad to have all three of you here. So, Niambi, what the hell? I'm kidding. What if they get
nothing? I mean, this is the part that really kind of chafes everyone's hide. It's like, we were in it, right? It's been 40 days and we can bear it. It's hard and it hurts. But if there's going to be something at the end of this, and all they seem to get was, oh, we'll have a conversation in a couple of months. Still kicking the can down the road to January. And let's be clear, once those new healthcare premiums kick in, it's going to be pretty hard to walk them back. So, I mean, they got nothing. I mean, the main thing that they told us is that they really care about watching people hurt rather than, staying the course so that people don't hurt over the longer term. And so if this was what you were going to do, you should have did this 20 days ago.
So let me be very clear on the Congo. If anyone suggests that, oh, I don't care that people are hurting, that's sheer stupidity. On this show, from the day the inauguration took place, we talked about the attack on federal workers. On this show, we've literally had union leaders talking about this very issue. All of the major unions discussing the impact of federal workers. And so we understand that with the government shutdown, that government workers were not getting paid. But let's also understand what the fight was for. It's to make sure the federal government workers get their back pay. Mm-hmm. Russell Vought said, we ain't doing that. The fight was over getting folks rehired who were illegally fired, unjustly fired by Trump. That was a part of this. Healthcare was a part of this. Expanding SNAP benefits was a part of this. So if you are a Simple Simon and you think that this was only about a healthcare battle, then you have not been paying attention not only to what's been happening in D.C., other media outlets, but you damn sure ain't been paying attention to this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It really sucks, man. The way we're coming off of, the elections last week, and for Mike Johnson and Thune to basically be right, because last week they said, well, Democrats are pretty much making this noise, and after the election, I'm sure they'll come back around. And that's what happened. And so when you see that the way that they caved, when you see who caved, and when you see Chuck Schumer pretending like, oh, I voted no, like he didn't really know what was going on, when Shaheen said that they informed him on everything, this looks absolutely weak on behalf of the Democrats. They successfully, and we all talked about messaging on the show and how Republicans are always better at them. They successfully, throughout this shutdown, changed the narrative. They moved the narrative from Trump talking about crime, from Trump talking about all of this other stuff, and they were in control control. They had the people in control, in line with them. Everywhere we went, people were talking about the need to fight. And for them to cave in like this so quickly, it's extremely disappointing. And yes, like you said, nobody wants to see anybody suffer, but we know that these Republicans don't give a damn about healthcare. We know that they had special sessions in July to get tax cuts for the wealthy. We know that over this weekend, Roland, as they were saying no SNAP benefits and we're going to penalize states, and Trump was saying I'm going to penalize states that do this, he was working to get more tax cuts to the wealthy and those companies. So this is who they are. And anything that gets down to even if the Senate does pass something on healthcare, anything that gets down to the House is going to be voted down anyway. So what the hell? You know, it's like people are feel so let down, and they have a right to be. And I don't know. Schumer needs to go. Ro Khanna's right. I mean, he needs to go. He is not the leader that Democrats need in this moment. And anybody who feels like this is a win for Democrats, particularly long term, they are sadly mistaken. These guys are not to be trusted, and we're about to find out once again.
Yes, right.
Here's the other thing, Tylik. The First Circuit Court of Appeals was going to be ruling very soon on SNAP benefits. That was putting pressure on Donald Trump and his thugs in the White House. You had folks, and not just people who were Democrats who were galvanized. You literally had red state folk, farmers, others who were realizing how they were getting screwed for the people who they were voting for. So by doing this, what you now signal is that, hey, any future, because let me be real clear, the continuing resolution only for a few weeks. We're going to be back here in a few weeks. So what they've said is, hey, if SNAP is a part of this, it doesn't even matter. So it's not that big of an issue. So this is going to this compromise is going to weaken any Democrat effort in the future, in any future CR, any continuing resolution.
Absolutely, because they bent the knee. And I think as panelists just said, like to be real, our so-called leaders, if they can't stand firm for the people they represent, then it's time to primary them out. Because we are at this point rewarding cowardice and calling it compromise. And I think them bending the knee has showed who they're willing to protect, who they're willing to give into. And so many Democrats, as we have seen, have bent to the knee and bent to the knee of these Republicans. And they're out here making pinky promises like they're at the kids on the playground. And I think we can't afford to give in to what they're saying, because people's paychecks are on the lines, food is on the line, people's dignity is on the line. And I think it's not just about policy, but it's about priorities. And we can't compromise on humanity. We don't negotiate over or whether families get food on their table, or whether kids get childcare, or folks can afford their medicine, or whether folks, have the dignity to be able to, not lose their jobs, or based off of a political standoff. And so I think, we continue to bend to the knee, and I think Democrats have shown that. And I think it's time for us for new leadership and for us to be real about this moment and primary these folks out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem here is that the folks, the 8, are not up for re-election in 2026. Most are not up for re-election until 2030. And people really need to understand what this broader battle was. This was a much broader battle, Niambi. People, it wasn't just healthcare. And again, people also have to understand the nuances of this. So yes, people started getting letters saying their health care was going to be increasing, but open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act is also happening as well. And so the real issue is what action could be done before January, not some letters rolling out in September.
Right. And I think one of the things that you said, Roland, I think we have to always think about this, is that our memories have to be longer than our wallets, right? That we have to remember this moment, because there was all of this goodwill, right, coming out of last week, as Omakongo rightly pointed out, that there was all of this momentum that they had, that people said, okay, look, we may not like all the Democrats all the time, but clearly they're doing something right. And in 1 week, in one fell swoop, they squandered all of that. And some people are making a cynical bet, right? That because they're not facing re-election, that we will forget this. But I think we have to make it our business to stand on their necks and make sure we don't forget this, because as you said, it's not just about the policy that's here. I think Tyleek made a really important point about people's dignity and acknowledging the humanity that is at the center of all policy, that should be at the center of any politics in this country. But that we have to remember that who we are as people has to be bigger than these parties and has to be bigger than these individuals. We might look kindly at some of these people. We might remember what they did way back when. But like Janet said, what have you done for me lately? And that needs to be what our calling card is now. That needs to be the calling card at the midterms, and that needs to be the calling card at the next senatorial elections. Some of these people don't need to be there anymore. They are more concerned about their own office and potentially about their own ability to stay in that office. It's a comfy place to be, right? Than they are with making sure that the humans on the other end of those offices are being served. So absolutely primary these people, absolutely look at all possible candidates, right? All possible representatives, but also look to what we can do in our state and local elections, because as we saw on Tuesday, those are going to be huge. And many of the things that we care about, we just are not going to be able to rely on a federal response, especially because the authoritarianism that is at the heart of all of this is also something that we are going to be dealing with, not just in this moment, but in the decades to come, because that's also being cultivated right now.
And on the Congo, the thing we have to understand here, that same bill had almost $1 trillion in cuts for Medicaid. So I need people to understand this fight was solely not a single issue. It was multiple issues that impacts millions of Americans.
Absolutely. And when I was watching your interview with Reverend Barber last week, one of the things that he mentioned was like, everywhere he goes, the people get it. They understand what's being fought for, even with the struggles that they're having. And he constantly talked about the need for Democrats to put these faces in front of everybody so that they can see what's happening at every different level. They don't do that on a consistent basis. He talked about the need for us to let Democrats know that we want them to keep fighting. We've been doing that. We've been talking about that. But these guys, and look, yeah, these guys may not be up for election for 2, 4, whatever years, but Schumer can resign his position tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's like people need to put pressure on him to go. And so the fact of the matter is that these Democrats, yes, they understood that Trump is all about the single message, the single word, and so that they focused it on healthcare, but they also knew that it was about more than that. But then to just give up and cave in and basically say, well, we're going to get our vote and Republicans are going to be put on record. They already been on record. They've been trying to kill Obamacare forever. Trump hasn't had a policy. He's only had concept of a plan since he came onto the scene. So we're going on 10 years now as it relates to him. They've shown their hand from beginning to end. They're going to do more to protect the wealthy, to protect the insurance companies, to protect the people who run these hospitals, who are these millionaires and billionaires, and not give a damn about the people. All while Trump is going down to Mar-a-Lago on taxpayer dollars to live his life lavishly. Kash Patel and Kristi Noem, all of that. So when you talk about the fact that there were so many other areas of this bill that Democrats needed to be focused on, it seems to me, Roland, that we the people, we knew that. We got that. We understood that because we were living it regularly. But these 8 Democrats are just so out of touch that they didn't fully give a damn about enough of us to want to continue. And that's where they failed us once again. And lastly, the fact that everybody predicted this. Democrats, Republicans, Democratic commentators, liberal outlets, Republican outlets, they all said that Democrats were going to cave right after the election. And here we are.
So, Tyler, let's talk some numbers. This is from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. You see, this is what happens when you don't give the full picture, the full context. So, federal workers, are we concerned with those families and lack of paychecks? Absolutely. But I want to run the numbers here, y'all. There are 2.2 million federal workers. There are 42 million Americans getting SNAP benefits. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, that law cuts $1.1 trillion from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act marketplaces. Not only that, upwards of 20 million people will not have health care. CBO estimates that 10 million people will become uninsured due to Medicaid and ACA marketplace cuts in the law, including 7.5 million people who will lose Medicaid in 2034. An additional 4.2 million will lose marketplace coverage because the law failed to extend the premium tax credit enhancements, which lower annual premiums by more than $700 on average for people who receive them. So they talk about the pain of federal workers, which I totally understand. And we've been talking about their plight for months. But we're also talking about this bill impacting 42 million with SNAP, 20 plus million with health care. Right there alone, we're now talking 60 million people. Those are also real numbers.
That's right.
Exactly. And it's a much bigger picture, as you even laid it out. And I continue to say this again, like, you don't compromise on humanity or, what grounds you. You don't negotiate over whether families get to eat, whether, elders get their medicine, or whether children have roofs over their head, or, childcare. And Democrats are out here looking reasonable instead of being righteous for the things that we know we deserve in this moment, what our families deserve, what our children deserve, is that safety. This fight was about dignity. It's about saying that basic survival shouldn't be negotiable, that food and housing and safety net programs and fair pay aren't bargaining chips, but instead we should be reminded that democracy means that we take care of each other, not, take away the things that we know we need to survive. And the fact that, as you said, this is a much bigger picture and Democrats are bending to the knee, it just shows that are they really in it for a righteous fight? But instead here trying to just look reasonable and look like the savior. And in this moment does not require that. It requires that we, stand up and fight for the things that we know we deserve. Because in the long haul, we already know who will get the short end of the stick. And right now, the fight is about ensuring that we get our share of the pie, even as we reopen.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.